and going up and down to NC State. And a former player who knows a thing or two when it comes to the defensive sets and getting locked on NC State and the Wolfpack this upcoming season. Kenton Gibbs joins the show. Moving on from the Big 12 and coming up and into the ACC. I mean, this is an interesting conference this year. I mean, the guarantee this year is we know what Clemson football obviously looks like. But the other thing is, my biggest dark horse would obviously be Georgia Tech, because that defensive front they got and adding in more from the transfer portal is going to be really interesting this season. But looking at NC State, I mean, they got to really prepare up defensively, offensively. How do you really outlook, what kind of the competition going in this upcoming season that the Wolfpack, they really want to be prepared for this year?
Yeah, so if I'm talking about NC State's outlook for the year and saying what I expect them to be, the biggest question is, can you get stops? Can you get stops? That's going to be the question. Offensively, you have CJ Bailey returning at quarterback, who was forced to step into a situation where last year he was supposed to be young pup, go ahead and redshirt. Grayson McCall is the guy that he's going to be a 6-year senior. He's going, it's his time. He's former Conference Player of the Year, multiple time Conference Player of the Year at the Sun Belt, at Coastal. Go ahead and learn. All of a sudden, we got a kid that was slow dancing at prime a few months earlier as our starting quarterback because of Grayson McCall's concussion injuries and all that good stuff. So it was very unfortunate, but him going through that trial by fire, it definitely forced him to hone in and tune into certain things that he would not have otherwise. And the beauty of it, the offensive line and the run game were good enough last year to where a thing that happens a lot with freshmen, if they come into an unstable and terrible situation in general, it speeds up their clock. They learn bad habits. They learn, oh, God, I got to get rid of the ball right now. I don't know. I can't go through my reads. I can't. CJ Bailey, from a very young age, showed the wonderful ability to go ahead and go through all his reads. Where's one? Where's two? Where's three? All right, I may need to run. I may need to throw this away. So he was given the time to do that, and he has a receiving core that many people would say on the outside, on paper, if you do not know this team, you say, oh, losing KC, that group of pass catchers is going to be way different. KC being Kevin Concepcion, who's now a Texas Tech or Texas A&M Aggie, rather. A lot of people say this group is worse. You're bringing back Justin Jolie, the best-kept secret in all of college football at tight end. I think he's one of the best tight ends in the nation. I think he's going to be a Mackey Award finalist. You're bringing him back. You're bringing back Noah Rogers, a former borderline five-star guy that showed up in some massive moments last year. Look up his catch against the University of North Carolina. I call him a dirty foot club. So just for posterity, if you hear me say that for the rest of the episode, that's what I'm talking about. But look up his catch against them, and you'll see the type of playmaking that he had. Keenan Jackson, Terrell Anderson, and Jonathan Taylor. You've got talent all there. And I haven't even mentioned the running game, but a guy like Hollywood Smothers, who was dynamic. He was as electric of a running back as NC State has had in some time. You're bringing all of that nucleus back. You're bringing Jacarius Peak, who's one of the best offensive linemen in the conference that didn't get any of the conference mentions and all that good stuff back. Defensively, I am a little concerned. Guys are coming along. From what I'm hearing, guys in the program are coming along at the rate that they should, but I'm always worried about guys that haven't seen real live game time. They haven't seen. It's easy to diagnose a star route in a film room. It's easy to diagnose a levels concept in a film room. It's different when you're on the field and you're having to play against it and prevent it. It's different when you got Brian Wesco lined up across from you. It's way different when you're seeing Kevin Jennings kind of break what's on your what's drawn up on the board. So I'm very intrigued to see how this defense holds up. But you just had a Big 12 guy on here. NC State's going to have to play some 2010s Big 12 football. It's going to be a race to 50 some games. And damn it, I hope we get there first.
And, it's interesting because, I try to tell a lot of people because especially, you look at conferences like we know the two biggest ones, SEC and Big 10, I mean, they're the most competitive. And you'll mix into Big 12. And then a lot of people kind of look at ACC a little bit differently. But at the same time, I mean, Clemson and Dabo Swinney, he wants to get, he's gotten into the playoffs. But at the same time, we know that his program, I mean, took a bit of a drop off, but once he finally got Cade Klubnik, it kind of changed up a little bit, and now there's expectations there. But we know the ACC. It's going to be interesting to see what the next couple of years will look like for them because, like I said, I think that the defensive front of Georgia Tech is really starting to upgrade it, and it's getting bigger and better. But even for the other teams, when you look at Florida State, you look at a couple of other programs up from there, NC State, they want their fair share, and they want their cuts up from it. And like you explained about defense and even playing the position itself, what are kind of some outlooks, especially from play-wise, scheme fits, players, you would expect this guy's going to be our heavy-duty tackler. This one is going to be more of that run stopper. There's a couple names up out there that I would expect NC State, they really want to see the best of production out of them and give them that fighting chance to climb up in the ranks in the ACC.
Yeah, well, football and baseball have one thing in common. You want to be strong up the middle. And NC State has the ability to do that at the front level with a guy like Brandon Cleveland anchoring the middle of that defense. He's a guy that I see as more of a 3-tech than a nose guard, but I think he can play both. I think he can do both at a high level. I think he's going to have to be disruptive in terms of squeezing and condensing the pocket because I'm a little bit concerned about our edge rushers. And that is what, to me, the edge rushing ability is what concerns me about this defense the most, because at the end of the day, I think every good team has at least 1 to 2 in terms of good defense. You have at least 1 to 2. The best defenses, they got 3 to 6. They have multiple, they come at you in waves, change like hockey lines, giving credit to the Tennessee Volunteers of last year. I saw it up close and personal at the Dukes Mayo Kickoff Classic in Charlotte when NC State played them. And it was like, yes, James Pierce was going to be the guy that wasn't going to have to wait in the green room long, but they had waves of defensive linemen that could do it at a high level. I'm a little bit worried about that, but you're going to need to see very high level production from Brandon Cleveland when he's on the field, if that defense is to be anything special. And then in terms of your tacklers, the linebacking core is in a similar situation of where they were last year, in that I believe that they're good in terms of top end talent, but you're still one injury away from things being not so good, right? Last year I said, hey, this linebacking core, Tony Gibson's going to have to make some chicken salad out of, with all due respect to those young men, some guys that weren't as talented as what we've seen at the linebacker position at NC State. And this year, I think it's going to be the same thing. Sean Brown, fantastic linebacker. He can roam all over the place. You can tell that he used to be a safety by how he moves around the field. He can get it done. He's one of the few guys that hash to hash is an understatement for him. He literally is a sideline to sideline guy. Then you got Caden Fordham, guy that's coming off injury. He was the starting Mike linebacker last year. He was doing good things until his ACL tear. So you're wondering how he's going to look coming off that. Elijah Groves is a little bit of the wild card here, because he is the guy he's the freak of the group. There's always one player that you look at, their measurables, and you watch their high school film and you're like, oh, that kid's a freakazoid. That's Elijah Groves. At this point in time, with a year under head strength and conditioning coach Antonio Burnett's weightlifting system and all that, and with college nutrition and all that good stuff, his body is filling out. Now it's, can you move that body? Can you be where you're supposed to be? Because I think that if Elijah Groves is good, that's why I say he's the wild card. Not only from a talent standpoint, he has the ability to elevate this defense if he is mentally prepared to take the next step. That's going to be difficult. Now that DJ Elliott is the new defensive coordinator, as opposed to Tony Gibson, who had been there the past couple of years, who's now the head coach over at Marshall. But I see that as that linebacking core and those tacklers, those are going to be the main guys. And once again, I'm looking at a situation where you brought in a bunch of good guys from the portal with Kenny Soares and company in that realm, but you also lost a ton in the portal in terms of depth guys in that linebacker room. So you're really looking at an outlook for that group, that front seven in particular, where you're saying to yourself, there are some holes, even if everybody's healthy, but you cannot afford an injury or two at some critical spots there.
So a couple days ago, I asked this fun question, and I actually had your colleague up and on here, and he would be ecstatic if this was to happen. But a fellow NC State alumni, Philip Rivers, we know his kid Gunner I mean, he looks great. The kid's got a bigger body, and I also honestly think that, like, from a talent trajectory, I think he's got a much higher ceiling than what his dad has had. But I think he's been around really good coaches, and he's also been around great camps. We know Texas has been eyeballing him, but we know NC State. They want to throw some crumbs in there. They want to make it very spicy and want to bring in a fellow, recruit at some point that also, knowing his dad, like NC State, man, wouldn't that be the perfect, like, match made in heaven right from there? How would you feel personally if that were the case, that Gunnar Rivers following into the footsteps of his dad and yet being an even higher prospect, at the quarterback position and really kind of transcending, the NC State program and even on the offensive side of the ball?
I see it like this. Gunnar Rivers coming to NC State would be absolutely massive because this is a legacy guy. This is a guy, his dad's name littered all throughout our record books, all throughout the ACC record books, to be honest. To get an NC State Legends child in here, and don't get me wrong, right? He is phenomenal, but Phillip Rivers and all those kids, you're going to have at least, 3-4 more shots at getting you one of those River boys in here. No, but in all seriousness, Gunnar is a special, special talent. He's much more mobile than his dad was. I can tell you that much right now. His dad was a little bit of a statue back there, but he could get it done. He could absolutely fling it. And his son is the same way, just with a little less wonky of a release. And he, like you said, he's been around coaches. He is NFL pedigree. It's there. You can tell he's grown up around the game because he kind of reads the game out in a way that is advanced for his age. So getting a guy like Gunnar Rivers to NC State, that would be a massive pickup. And regardless of what his name is, you always want to have very good players there. But when you talk about the legacy aspect of it, I mean, how great would that be? Imagine all the TikTok edits with Stunning Like My Daddy with him and his pops, and you get the mirror images and all that going on. But, Gunnar Rivers is a big-time recruit. And at the end of the day, obviously, every NC State fan wants him. Every NC State alum wants him and all that good stuff. I am so intrigued and surprised because the quarterback position is one that for quite some time we have kind of punched above our weight class in. And it's just so fascinating. I mean, you go back to the days of probably, I'd say, Jacoby Brissett. And from there, you had a string of very good quarterbacks with the brief interlude of the year where Devin Leary had his COVID problems. It was him and Bailey Hocking. But other than that, you have consistently had guys at that position that are not only capable, but can win you ball games at a high level. Even a year where NC State cycled through 4 quarterbacks, they won 8 games. That was no surprise. And it wasn't because of the offense. I'm not saying that year the quarterback play was great and outstanding, but everybody came in and did what they were supposed to do. So you get a guy like Gunnar and you elevate him like you've elevated some of these other guys who are much less talented, much lower of a ceiling than Gunnar. Oh, man, like you said, that is the type of thing that transcends a program. That's the type of thing that lifts you into that different type of weight class. And I always say every great dynasty starts with one of 2 things, either a great player that stays home or a great player that comes home. Like they were born there, they have some tie to the university, and they come home or whatever the case may be. And that's what makes it great. You look at the state of North Carolina in general, there's a ton of talent here. It just doesn't stay in North Carolina. Dexter Lawrence goes to Clemson and does great things there. I believe Peter Woods is from Greensboro, if I'm not incorrect there. But you've got a ton of really, really high-level guys in the state of North Carolina. And then when you look up and you say, well, wait, where are they going for college? All of them have every college in the world you could imagine, except for the Dirty Foot Club or NC State or Wake Forest or Duke. And so, that's definitely a problem.
Yeah, it is interesting though, but yeah, I truthfully believe, just college football up and in general, man, it's going to get better and better. I think we ultimately need, more consistency, especially with new money coming in, the transfer portal, with the NIL in place. I mean, it's just a different plateau for, college sports, but I think it should be interesting. I mean, I love the tribal, kind of feeling with college sports in general, because it just buys you in, it draws you closer. And especially in the state of North Carolina. I mean, now you got Chapel Hill ringing up with Bill Belichick, his first year in college, and, all the way across the board. So it should be really interesting coming up and into the season. But Kenton, appreciate you for coming on by and sharing the NC State insights from here and where people can find all of your guys' content as well, getting locked in for the Wolfpack the upcoming season.
Absolutely. You can find me and the Wolfpack and my coverage of the Wolfpack at LO_Wolfpack. I'm also the co-host of Locked On ACC. You can find that at Locked On ACC wherever you listen to your podcast and get all that type of good stuff. And please be aware, this name that you see down here in this bottom left-hand corner, TGI Kenton, if you go there, you're going to get Kenton the man, not Kenton the sports broadcaster. So you're going to see all types of stuff and opinions on different things and all that. And you're going to see me cheering for my Detroit sports teams, my AL leading Tigers and whatnot. You're going to see those types of things all over the page. So I appreciate you for having me on, Jake. And as always, go Pack, brother.
Absolutely, man. And hey, speaking of Detroit sports, because I do have a good fellow friend of mine that I'm waiting for him to get his name called back up to this organization. And I played high school baseball with him. He was a fellow teammate, but a great kid, great heart, great mind. Just waiting for him to get up and on this roster soon. But appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on by. Enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend. And we will see you soon here for the upcoming college football season. Take care, my friend.
All righty, Chief. You too, man.
Yes, sir. All right. And the best for last. I love this one because ultimately we're getting the whole